Hello, friends. The spread of coronavirus has impacted global sports calendar badly. Major events related to all major sports stand cancelled or postponed. And this is true for cricket, tennis, rugby, football, and all major sports. To talk on all these issues, we have today with us Navneet Ganapathi, who is a sports management expert and founder of Sportainment. Welcome to the show, Ganapathi.
Thank you so much, Kanchan. It's a pleasure and honor to be a part of your show. Look forward. Yeah.
So, Mr. Navneet, how deep the impact is? Because I suppose it has the cancellation of sports events must have impacted sports person, sports bodies, advertisers, media companies, and also sport management companies like you.
Absolutely. I mean, especially for somebody like myself, who's been running a sports management agency for close to a decade. We've seen various challenges before. For example, say due to various circumstances, the IPL getting shifted out of the country or getting postponed, but etc. etc. But nothing of this magnitude has ever hit international sport in this kind of a magnitude. And yes, almost every single stakeholder, whether it's athletes, whether it's rights holders, whether it's advertisers, whether it's broadcasters, every single stakeholder or agencies, every single stakeholder has been seriously impacted and affected by COVID-19, because I mean it's just hit us from nowhere, literally, because we were all ready to roll out with regards to, say, the IPL, for example, with say brand shoots and team related shoots, and player appearances, etc., which are all scheduled to roll out between the end of March and early April, which was the scheduled start of the IPL. But now it's all, I mean, like, once the lockdown got into effect, everything's been put on hold, and there is no clarity as to when this is going to happen. I mean, when things are going to get back to normal.
How are players coping with the lockdown?
It's obviously pretty challenging for them, and more than challenging, it's probably strange times for them as well, because they are the ones who are probably on the road most of the time, and they are the ones who are probably hardly at home. And this is a time when most international cricketers are like crisscrossing the country, with 14 games happening in a matter of like 6 weeks. And it's probably a very strange feeling for them, but I'm sure almost every international cricketer and aspiring cricketers are trying to keep themselves fit by doing home workouts and having a decent strict diet regimen as well, because once things get back to normal, they would also need to get match fit as well. So it is pretty strange and challenging for them as well.
What about the domestic
But
players?
at the
When
same
the
time,
boys and girls who are who are into various sports and they stay in the smaller towns, they might not be able to. They might not be having the facility of gym at their home, or maybe their town which is open now.
absolutely, absolutely. You know, while we are talking about the privileged cricketers, it is a massive challenge for, say, rural sport and the ones who are trying to climb the ladder and break into, say, national level and international level, etc. And outside of cricket, yes, of course, it is a massive challenge for every other sport. And like I was mentioning, even with regards to, say, Olympic sport, because this is supposed to be an Olympic year, and typically, I would say two kinds of Olympic athletes would also be significantly affected by all of this. One, who are the ones who are probably making their Olympic debut, who are very anxious and curious to see how their performance is going to pan out, and they've been putting a lot of hard work and effort over the last, say, few years to reach this level, and also the ones who are probably at the fag end of their career, for whom it could possibly be their last Olympic year, because it obviously happens only once in 4 years. So it's kind of almost back to square one or back to scratch, where they have to start their preparation all over again, hoping and praying that it kicks off in July 2021 instead of July 2020.
As you mentioned, Olympics. So I guess there won't be a level playing field because lockdown is it is not. I mean, every country has enforced different kind of lockdown. Some have little bit, more restrictions. Some have the smaller period of lockdown, and India has, bit kind of larger compared to some other countries. So the level playing field might not be there even if Olympic is held is going to be held next year.
Uh, well,
Because fitness matters a lot, right?
absolutely, absolutely. But at the same time, the Olympic Association and the body, like for example the IOA, etc., and the equivalent national Olympic bodies of various nations will put their best foot forward to see how what best they can do for their national athletes as well. And in fact, if I'm right, the first two countries to pull out of the Olympics this year was, I think, Australia and Canada, who are typically amongst the top 5 or certainly top 10 countries when it comes to medals tally. And when these two nations are not in the Olympics, it's not an Olympics. I mean, like it's a huge body blow for the International Olympic Committee and the organizers in Japan as well.
Mm-hmm. What
So,
about?
Yeah.
Yeah, please go ahead. You were saying something.
No, so I was just saying that it is a massive challenge for uh, the national Olympic bodies across the world to try and ensure that whenever the lockdown releases or relaxation opens up, that uh, the best possible facilities are given to their potential Olympic hopefuls. Yes, there are countries in Europe which probably had lockdown before India, and therefore their relaxation is also happening before ours. So it's highly important that the flattening of the curve, which many people are talking about, happens sooner rather than later, so that it works. It augurs well for the national Olympic bodies as well, and the athletes, of course.
It might be affecting sports bodies as well. I mean, their revenue, like BCCI or maybe Olympics. How big the impact is, or they are
So
going to recover by next year.
yeah. To just digress a fraction from what you've just mentioned. Uh, Interestingly, as people know, Wimbledon and the British Open Golf, these are the two only sporting bodies or rights holder organizers who actually, about 15-20 years ago, took insurance cover for an epidemic or a pandemic. So therefore, they are actually pretty lucky and fortunate that they can actually recover or some of their losses through their insurance cover.
Does BCCI
Whereas,
have that?
no, unfortunately, BCCI and Star Sports, I don't think have taken the insurance cover for an epidemic or a pandemic. I only believe that they've taken it for war and terrorism. Which is why, like I mentioned, BCCI and Star Sports and various stakeholders are quite anxious and eager to figure out when the relaxation opens up, that when the sport can get back to normalcy, and of course safety is of paramount importance. and this probably means that the sport will probably we have to play it behind closed doors. I'm sure it's going to affect fans not getting to watch their stars up close, but uh, we'll probably have to live with it for some time. And I'm sure teams especially will come up with teams and brands who are kind of associated with the players and the teams in some fashion, uh, will come up with different ideas and strategies for uh, player interaction through social media, etc.
Mhm. What about the advertising contracts which most of the big players have at present?
Yeah. So there are basically say 2-3 different kinds of brands who are kind of associated with teams and athletes for their endorsements. One are your large FMCG brands, and two are of course your up and coming brands who have some kind of uh, investments through VCs, PEs, etc., etc. So the challenge here is of two kinds. One is because of the lockdown, factories are shut, operations are shut, manufacturing is shut. Uh, so it's a massive hit for some brands. So therefore, uh, push comes to shove, they'll have to probably invoke a force majeure and pull out of their existing contract, and be hopeful that they can get back into brand associations probably in a year's time. But the more realistic approach I would possibly believe is that both brands and teams and athletes would probably want to renegotiate contracts, which probably is going to be a bit challenging. So typically, a contract between a brand and a team would have various set of deliverables. It could be some branding on the uniform. It could be branding on in stadia perimeter boards, or it could be doing a shoot with the players, or it could be a consumer activation with the players and fans, stuff like that, and some social media kind of thrown in. And that would probably be at a say an X value. Now, uh, the brand will say that with the lockdown, my revenues have taken a massive beating, and my sponsorship and ATL budgets are also taking a massive beating. Therefore, we'll need to probably revisit the deliverables and commercials. So maybe we don't want all of the deliverables right now. We'll probably just do half of that, and at least try and stay relevant with regards to not doing anything at all. Because at the end of the day, uh, it's a 360 cycle where we need to have some kind of marketing budget to do some kind of association as well.
I was reading a research report, I think it was released by a firm,
Mhm.
which says that sports revenue of Asia Pacific could be down by $2 billion. So, what could be the size of loss of revenue for India?
Yeah, even I did read about that, but I'm not too sure as to the exact number in terms of loss. I mean, like, it is going to be a pretty massive hit, uh, both in terms of sports sponsorship and as in India, for example, cricket's the biggest revenue generator and has the maximum eyeballs. And over the last few years, if you've noticed, India slowly moved away or tried to move away from being a one sport nation, with various other leagues coming up like Kabaddi, the ISL, uh,
Badminton.
the PBL, the badminton, etc., etc.
Mhm.
So, and brands over the last few years have typically said that say sometimes there's too much clutter in cricket, or it's too expensive to associate. So they start looking at working on other sports associations as well, which are probably a little more cost effective and stuff like that. But yes, almost if say if brands are going to renegotiate, say, contracts in cricket, I'm 100% sure that brands are going to renegotiate contracts in other leagues as well.
Thanks for talking with us, Navneet. Thank you so much.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much. Been a pleasure. Thank you.